Hello everyone. We're gonna debunk Swag Kage today. Me and Alan here. Alan is the first Itachi tard to my knowledge.
Yeah, the king of the Itachi tards.
I'm a bit of an Itachi tard myself. The specific video we're gonna be debunking is Itachi versus the 5 Kage. Swag Kage made a lot of awful, terrible
claims,
arguments that need to be addressed. So we're gonna address them here.
So first point we're going to touch on is his stamina. This is like the go-to anti-Itachi tard argument is Itachi has terrible stamina. So 6, what did Itachi use prior to the Sasuke fight? Because nobody seems to know that this happened because they just watched the fight on YouTube. And most of the fights don't include this, but you have some knowledge that might enlighten some people.
Prior to the Sasuke fight, Itachi sends 2 separate clones after each Sasuke and Naruto. And if you want to take the games into consideration, he also fights Kisame.
Yeah, that was confirmed canon, but also one thing to note is the shadow clone that went after Naruto put him in a genjutsu. So that's like another use of chakra. And then I think Sasuke killed one clone and a second clone appeared, and that's the clone that leads him to Itachi. And then that's when, the fight begins. And I think Swag was kind of trying to imply that Itachi's already on his deathbed, but prior to all this happening, he hadn't used any abilities, and his vision there wasn't any indication that, his vision was deteriorating until he used Tsukuyomi, which would mean he would at least get a shot off Tsukuyomi before his vision started to deter. Also, against Kisame, I don't know what you think of this, because I don't really know how to interpret the game, because it's kind of weird, but Itachi's MS logo appears.
I think he was in genjutsu the whole time. I don't think the fight actually happened.
Yeah, so exactly, because Kisame actually hears Itachi's voice in his head, and Itachi's robe has none of the damage from the the jutsu he used, the shark bombs, it's like
mini shark bombs and whatnot.
Like I said, the MS logo. So arguably that could have been Tsukuyomi he was in, and a lot of people think that Tsukuyomi is the inverted realm, but we see when he uses it on Sasuke, Itachi can manipulate that. It doesn't always have to be the inverted color scheme.
He can freely control the space within there and things like that. So it definitely could have been Tsukuyomi, which would just be supported by the fact that it was his MS pattern that pops up.
Exactly, and even if you want to just lowball it and say it was just a generic genjutsu, I mean, putting Kisame in a genjutsu, like, this dude started sweating. Like, fucking Kisame, was fucking beat up. Yeah. So, anyway,
it's actually stated, if you didn't know, it's actually stated that Kisame has the most chakra in all the Akatsuki, and to put something under genjutsu, you need to be able to control its chakra, as stated with Kurama. So, if anything, this is just Itachi, like, casually putting the guy in the Akatsuki with the most chakra under genjutsu, and like controlling that massive supply. So,
and even if you say this is, if anything, I think it would benefit to say that it's Tsukuyomi, because if this is just his generic genjutsu, then the 5 Kage won't be able to do anything against just the generic genjutsu. Like, Tsukuyomi isn't even needed at that point.
Exactly.
But so we're just gonna quickly run over what Itachi used. So the genjutsu on Naruto, the clone to Naruto, the 2 clones to Sasuke, the 2 fireballs he uses, and he uses Amaterasu. Like, he gets a couple shots off and misses. I don't know if you would count those as like individual uses or just one use overall. I personally just say one use overall. Then he uses Tsukuyomi, well, not in order, Shuriken Jutsu, a shadow clone, and then he maintains his Susanoo for almost an entire chapter, which is a pretty fucking long time.
Tsukuyomi in specific being stated to fatigue him a lot by both Sasuke and Zetsu.
Kisame, I think, at one point states something about using Tsukuyomi. But then, this is something that a lot of people seem to overlook, is that the transfer seal, when Itachi places Amaterasu in Sasuke's eye, that would have required the chakra amount to cast Amaterasu to begin with.
Yes.
So that is another usage of Amaterasu. And something else that I feel people overlook is that Itachi Susanoo disappears after Itachi dies, which indicates he wasn't out of chakra. Otherwise, his Susanoo would have disappeared first, and then he would have died. but if Susanu's maintained, Itachi dies, and then it disappears after Itachi croaks.
No, just to back up this whole thing of Itachi very clearly holding back on heavy Sasuke, it is stated that the only reason Sasuke even beat Orochimaru is because of the state he was in, and even with that, Orochimaru could still react to him and things like that. And then while Itachi's blind, almost dead, I went over this before in my Itachi versus Sani video, he just beats up the strongest form of Orochimaru easily. Like, casually just beats the shit out of him. So he's definitely not going full power against Sasuke at all.
Do you consider Edo Itachi to be equal, superior, or inferior to Sick Itachi?
Inferior.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people are going to lose their minds and say, oh, but infinite chakra, or he doesn't have the sickness. Well, the sickness has never been shown to impair his speed. So we are going to be using Edo speed feats for Sick Itachi, because you would need to prove that the sickness impaired his speed, and you don't really get that, because even while sick, he's able to blitz Sasuke's Sharingan, which in one of the data books it's stated to be mastered. And I think even Zetsu says he's like mastered the Sharingan, you know, so he's able to do it to Kakashi. Then he's, while on his deathbed, he's able to do it to a true heir of the Sharingan who's supposedly mastered it, as in he can't get any more, he can't advance anymore with that stage of the Sharingan, and he just like blitzes Sasuke casually while holding back.
Yeah. So, just to sum that up, Itachi not at full power against Sasuke.
Yeah, nowhere near. He would have folded him like 10 times over. Another thing Swag Kage says is that Itachi is slower than the right Kage
speed, and I'm more comfortable saying that he's probably substantially slower than the right Kage.
So do you want to take this one away?
I'll let you start with this one, because this one really irks me.
Alright, so Swag says that Itachi is substantially slower than the right Kage, and his reasoning for this is that KCM Naruto didn't really... He blitzes A, but he's still at a negative record, verbatim. And that just swapping hands... He says that Naruto was holding back, and he completely disregards the fact that Itachi is also holding back. Neither of them are taking the fight, you know, like bloodlusted or to their absolute peak. And there's a lot of scaling to kind of support this, and the idea that A is a fast character comes from a self-proclaimed statement that A makes. But when you look at it, A isn't very impressive. So version 1A gets reacted to easily by base Sharingan Sasuke. Suigetsu catches a bloodlusted attack when he was nowhere near A. When he goes to hit Sasuke, Suigetsu appears and catches his hit. Jugo reacts to him. B's reacted to him. Minato's reacted to him. Obito reacts to a bloodlusted attack from V1A. So it's like the amount of people that have countered A completely overshadow the people who have been blitzed. But I can't think of anyone who's actually been blitzed by A. I don't know if you can, you know, enlighten me on that.
Not that I know of.
So A,
and just even like going by Swag Kage's own logic, right? A's at a negative record for people who reacted to him versus people who haven't. So he's not that fast.
And even if you use his top speed, Minato reacts to his top speed. Sasuke reacted to his top speed. I mean, he got hit, but he looks behind him and he reacts.
Some people can have contention with that, but A intentionally starts trying to go behind Sasuke, and Sasuke in response can put up an Amaterasu shield. It's not like not saying like Sasuke can completely track V2A, but he can react enough to put up an Amaterasu shield in case he gets hit, right? Whereas he's not able to do like similar things against Kabuto while he has his EMS. So, and
well, in the manga panel for that, Sasuke is actually looking back at A. Like his gaze goes from looking forward to where A was to him looking behind him. Like he sees that A is about to hit him, but I guess he thinks he's okay because of the Susanoo and the Amaterasu.
Yeah.
But so that brings us into the fucking fallacy, the idea that a bunch of fucking fact pages spread that Itachi could not hold back because he was being controlled by the Edo Tensei. So Do you want to do you want to take this point first?
Yeah, this one is annoying, right? Kabuto says even like Hanzo, right, is able to disobey his orders that he like put inside of his head. So being under the control of Edo Tensei, like we see with Haku and Zabuza, things like that, they can disobey the Edo Tensei. All the Edo Tensei orders are like fight, right? But I talked to Alan about this prior to starting the video. If we give you a command like, yo, go to the store for me, right? You don't have to choose the most efficient way to get to the store. You can obviously hop in your car, 5-minute drive, or you could take your time and go walk to the store, right? So Itachi being ordered to fight doesn't mean he's going all out, especially seeing as he only uses his 3-tomo to engage Naruto. And it's stated in the one Decade 100 Ninja guidebook written by Kishimoto that the MS comes with a huge change in chakra, as indicated by later feats. So, and Itachi isn't controlling how he fights; he's just fighting.
Yeah, he's just kind of on auto counter mode, but he's also not fighting to the best of his ability. And a lot of people try to refute this by saying, Kabuto is controlling him. Kabuto himself actually makes a statement saying, I'm going to leave them bound enough to follow orders, which is pretty much exactly what Six just explained, that he can disobey and be less efficient. If I say, Six, fill up the bathtub, sure, you can turn the faucet on, or you can fill a cap of water. Either way, you're fulfilling the order, just not in an efficient way. But we see that Itachi, when he's actually fighting someone that he considers an opponent, once again, people never seem to make this connection, is Itachi goes for amputations. He cuts off Orochimaru's hand, he rips Nagato in half with the Susanoo, and he cuts off Kabuto's horn. Granted, if he didn't need to hold back, he could have taken off his head, and that would have been the fight right then and there. So Itachi gets behind B. B has no idea what the hell just happened. Like, B's just like looking ahead. He doesn't even realize that Itachi's behind him. And in the time that Itachi says, hey, I'm behind you, had he actually been unable to control himself, because I think Kabuto says at one point, I'm just going to kill B and Naruto and then resurrect them to pull the tailed beasts out. Itachi could have just literally taken B's head off, and that would have been the end of the fight. To further cement this point is that Nagato, while being controlled by Kabuto, which would be weaker, and the analogy I like to give here is, if you could trade, consciousness with Michael Jordan, yeah, you'll have all of his athletic ability, but you don't know how to dribble a fucking ball. And, you don't know how to pass the ball between your legs. Just because you're in his body doesn't mean you know how to handle it. So that's the same thing that applies to Kabuto and Nagato. Nagato even says, wait, what are this guy's abilities again? And then he starts, using them one by one. So B and Naruto got folded by a substantially weaker Nagato. And you can argue he got, amped by B's chakra, but I don't think B's chakra would necessarily do much for him, given that he's an Edo. I don't see how it would affect his abilities, aside just rejuvenating him. But, yeah, he just...
that doesn't help, because then Itachi just bodies the amp Nagato.
Exactly. Either way you cut it, it's not good for anyone trying to argue against it.
Yeah. So all you walk away from that with is Itachi Susanoo hits harder than a V2B lariat.
And he held back. That means Naruto and B weren't able to overwhelm. When he brings out the 8 swords, he slapped the shit out of Sasuke, but he couldn't land a single hit on Itachi. So, and this is with his base Sharingan. Like I said, he's nerfed and holding back. So the whole, KCM Naruto is faster than Itachi because Naruto had to hold back. It's like, okay, yeah, dude, but you completely ignored the fact that Itachi was holding back himself by a huge amount.
Onto something I mentioned earlier, or something that Alan mentioned earlier, is that Itachi's able to cut off Kabuto's horn. He's also able to react to his combat speed and things like that. People forget that Itachi has to hold back in this fight because he can't kill Kabuto. Kabuto, like I said earlier, he speed blitzes Iobes Sasuke, right, to a greater extent than A did. Itachi to Kabuto, Itachi should be a bit faster than A. Yeah,
and I would say, using Swag's own words, I would say Itachi is substantially faster than A. Not just, slightly faster.
72 times faster.
So I think we got that out the way. So we're going to jump into the Kage beat Madara, and Madara might have held back. So
This is
Swag
retarded.
Kage, yeah, Swag Kage says,
5 Kage were able to nearly beat Madara. You could maybe argue that he was holding back.
6, enlighten the viewers as to whether or not he might have held back.
Madara says maybe 5 or 4 different times that the things that Kage are doing are just things that he's let them do, right? Like Anoki's particle style. Prior to that, he just says like he was holding back. He's like, "Oh, you guys are going full power. I guess I'll go full power as well." Madara doesn't even really get excited until Hashirama gets on the battlefield. He's like, "Yeah, you guys fucking suck compared to Hashirama. This battle is nothing like the one we have. You guys are ass." Like Madara even somewhat trying against that Kage is retarded. Like that was one of the most stupid things he's ever said. On about that, right? Swag Kage says that,
But at least as far as I'm aware, Madara substituted his real self out for a wood clone after Tsunade hit him. So this was the real Madara, and Tsunade left a massive hole in his chest with a single punch.
but that's not how the substitution jutsu works at all. It would kind of defeat the purpose of it entirely.
A huge fucking outlier, because no one else has used a substitution after they already got hit. Like that doesn't make it. Why would you substitute yourself after getting punched in half? It doesn't make any sense how he tries to explain it.
So that's just like the Kage having blatantly no scaling at this point. Itachi's faster than their fastest member. Tsunade's punches don't scale to her durability. I went over that before. I'll re-put the scan. So Itachi kind of violates them.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing he says is that Itachi, Gaara can counter Itachi Susanoo by pulling the sand out from under his feet, which, yeah, I agree with that. However, Madara, like I said, I'm pretty sure in the scan, he's literally standing there with his arms crossed, just letting his Susanoo do all the fighting. Itachi's more proactive in fights. He's analyzing, seeing what ability this guy has, what's this person possibly going to do next. So even if Gaara was to pull him out and fling him into the air, aside from Onoki maybe blasting him, there's really nothing that would really do for the Kage. And if it was such a great counter, why didn't Gaara do that more when Madara was sitting inside of his Susanoo for the majority of the fight? There were several times where he could have just done it again, and he doesn't. Once again, people seem to think that Itachi can't activate his Susanoo midair when he's quite literally done that in the manga. When Sasuke's chasing him through the forest, Itachi's mid-air and he summons his Susanoo to slap away Sasuke.
I think it's pretty clear, like, Itachi bodies.
The Amaterasu that A can dodge Itachi's Amaterasu.
This is especially stupid. It implies like Amaterasu is just the same speed always, which just isn't the case, right? We see in the war arc, Sasuke's Amaterasu can like tag Kaguya. It can move faster than him while he's running toward Jubito in his EMS form. So Amaterasu is like very clearly faster than the user, who, if Itachi's already faster than A like we scaled, Amaterasu should probably just blitz him, honestly.
Yeah, and using EMS Sasuke or MS Sasuke to say, like you said, it's just a really stupid argument, because we see in the Kabuto fight, Itachi has superior precog to EMS Sasuke. And even if we lowball the shit out of this and say EMS Sasuke gets 0 buffs from, the EMS, that still means Kabuto blitzes the same Sasuke to a greater extent than the Raikage was able to. And Itachi scales above that. Like,
KCM1 Naruto also tells B not to get hit by Amaterasu. B, who literally overpowered V2A.
Yeah, and I'd argue they're relative, because I think to perform the lariat, they needed to be around equal.
I think the narrative
for the
supports
double
B
lariat.
being stronger.
I don't know why people consider A to be the fastest, because the only statement we have about A being the fastest is from himself. He just self-proclaims that, when Minato died, I was the fastest. But then he proceeds to get reacted to by everybody that he fights. Meanwhile, you have Itachi, who has blitzed everyone he's fought. He blitzed Kakashi, he blitzes Naruto, he blitzes Nagato. several times. He blitzes Kabuto, Sasuke, etc. So it's like some of them are overlapping characters that they fought, where A is unable to blitz them, but Itachi is. Sasuke and Naruto especially. But another point to bring up, Swag says that Kabuto blitzes Itachi 3 times, several times, but it's 3 times in the manga. There is very specific context to each one of the blitzes that Swag chose to ignore because he was cherry picking
supposed
to downplay
blitzes.
Itachi. Yeah, supposed. So the first blitz, when Kabuto initially stabs him with the sword. 6, what actually happened there?
It's literally an Itachi clone, bro. He literally subs out a clone. Kabuto stabs the clone to get surprised, right? So in actuality, Itachi's blitzing Kabuto with substitution jutsu.
Yeah, and another thing to note is, okay, so when Itachi gets stabbed, Kabuto smiles, and Sasuke has like an exclamation mark. He's like, fuck, like Itachi just got hit. When the crows explode, their facial feature, their facial expression, that's the word, they switch. Kabuto is now like, fuck, and Sasuke smiles, and he's like sighing of relief, like, oh shit, Itachi subbed himself out. So this is not only a blitz against Kabuto, he was able to sub himself out without EMS Sasuke realizing that he did it.
At all.
Exactly. So another thing is the Yatamir. So this one's kind of more up in the air, but I believe the Yatamir can be omnidirectional. A lot of people are gonna, running in the comment section, disliking, fuck you, fucking Itachi, sorry. Hear me out. So there's 3 ways to argue this, and there's kind of like a preponderance of evidence leaning to it can become omnidirectional rather than it can't. So the first way to do it is Zetsu states it can block any attack. He doesn't make an exception. And there's 2 data book scans that say any, all attack. It says it can change its dimensions, dimension being length, width, etc. That's one way. The second way is when Itachi is showing Sasuke the Yatamir, every Susanoo user, even in like non-canon, like Shisui, they're shown standing in the middle of the Susanoo, like where the spine is. But Itachi is offset. He's actually standing in the middle of the mirror. He's standing in the middle of
the mirror. He's actually standing inside the Yatamir.
Yeah, so an analogy for people to understand this is, if you stand in front of your house, you can still get hit from the left, the right, and behind you. But if you go inside your house, that it is now protecting you from,
every angle.
Exactly. So Itachi being offset like that indicates that even if his Yatamir can't expand or wrap itself around him, he can just stand inside of the mirror itself, and by default that would make it omnidirectional. But the third thing is, in the literal manga, dude, in that same scan, the Yatamir is only about, it's like a semicircle, and it's only about like twice as big as Itachi is in height. When he fights the Hydra and it clashes with the Yatamir, the mirror wraps like a dome around the fully evolved Susanoo, which is like almost the same size as the Hydra.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself should indicate to people that the Yatamir can become omnidirectional. It just became a fucking semicircle engulfing the entire Susanoo. Like, I think the whole it's unidirectional thing is really stupid, and ignoring that entire chapter of, you literally watch the mirror shapeshift constantly. It goes from being smaller than his the muscle Susanoo to smaller than his fully evolved to completely dwarfing his fully evolved Susanoo.
Yeah, so the Yatamir is omnidirectional. If you want to say like a Noki can vaporize the Yatamir, good luck proving the particle style hits on the spiritual level. Yatamir is stated to not have physical form, be a spirit weapon. That argument doesn't work.
And the last point I guess we're really going to touch on is, well, one thing that, once again, I don't think enough people know this because they watch the chopped up version of the fight and they don't read the manga, but Itachi can actually use the Totsuka blade with just the ribs of his Susanoo. He doesn't actually need to manifest the full body Susanoo. So, the part where they're fighting Kabuto and he like launches the Orochimaru head at them and Sasuke catches it? Yeah. In that scan, Itachi is holding the Totsuka blade and he stabbed well, he sliced Orochimaru. It's made more clear in the anime that he slices it, and it's kind of consistent. It's consistent with what he did to the Hydra. It seems that in order to activate the sealing, Itachi has to, like, stab as opposed to slice. So Itachi slices the Orochimaru head, and that's with just the rib cage and an arm. He doesn't manifest the skeletal, the muscle, or the armor. He just sticks his arm out, and he's holding the Totsuka blade. So that, to me, is like, not only does that grant Itachi a fuck ton of mobility, because now he doesn't have to walk around in the full body Susanoo or the armored Susanoo. He can just run around with his ribcage, just stabbing the shit out of them with the Totsuka blade, since he doesn't need the armored Susanoo. Getting into the durability of his Susanoo, the only thing I can really say is it's at least mountain level. Swag thinks he used the Yatamir. Itachi says, I use this, and he shows his Susanoo, not the Yatamir. And a tank Kirin, which obliterated the mountain that they were fighting on. Yeah. So I don't think any of them could crack. The ribs, sure. I think Tsunade and Amped A should be able to crack through his ribs. But to actually punch through his skeletal or muscle Susanoo, or even armored, I just don't see that happening. And if anything, you can use the Kirin speed to just kind of show that Itachi can just summon Susanoo faster than any of them can react.
Yeah, so, and this is even if they get to touch the Susanoo. We already established Itachi's much faster than their fastest member. So, they're not even going to be hitting him. He's just speed blitzing. Totsuka blade, Tsukuyomi,
Amaterasu. Yeah. And, even if you just limit him to the abilities he used against Sasuke, he used Tsukuyomi once, twice if you want to interpret his fight with Kisame as using Tsukuyomi. So that's at least one member down. And Itachi's smart. And also, if this is sick Itachi, like he said, he has his crow. So you could actually just claim 2 members are down. And we can just go by the weakest. So it doesn't look like we're going to knock out Inoki and A first. So, that's what, Mei, and then who would you say the second weakest Kage is?
Probably Gaara. Mei is really the only one on the field that's, useless, honestly.
She's a cheerleader for the Kage.
Yeah, she's not strong at all.
I know a point that's going to get brought up, inevitably, is Sasuke outran his Amaterasu, which...
No, he didn't.
No, yeah, exactly. Once again, in order for you to claim this, you need to disregard context, which is cherry picking. You're just blatantly lying at that point. So the way the anime does it in a more clear way, but Itachi is tracking Sasuke's wing. And we see that Itachi, his vision is blurry, so he's seeing 3 of Sasuke. So Itachi doesn't want to actually harm Sasuke. He just wants to clip the wing, which is, as soon as the Amaterasu hits the wing, Itachi shuts it off.
Yeah.
So that brings people need to understand there's a difference between precision and accuracy. So Itachi can't be very precise with it. He can't look at Sasuke and instantly hit the wing. That's why he's tracking it, because he doesn't want to accidentally hit his main body. However, he is able to keep up with him and hit him with the Amaterasu if he wanted to. Like I said, he just can't really pick which part of the body he's going to hit him because he's seeing triple and his vision's blurry. So even if A's running around the battlefield, that doesn't mean Itachi can't hit him. It just means he can't hit him precisely. He can't, if he wants to hit his head, he might actually hit his chest, but that doesn't indicate that Itachi just was getting blitzed by fucking Curse Mark 2 Sasuke?
Yeah.
So that's...
And the reason why he can't be as accurate as possible is because of his blindness, obviously.
Exactly, but, then, like I said, that's just people misinterpreting precision and accuracy. He could have hit Sasuke from the beginning if he wanted to. Yeah. He just didn't want to accidentally, start burning his brother half to fucking death.
I mean, we see he can hit Sasuke. That's why it's such a gross misinterpretation of the scan. We literally see the Amaterasu catch up to Sasuke and hit him.
Yeah, so I guess people think that Amaterasu and Itachi's eyes have an accelerator, and the Itachi has to, ramp up to 200 mph in order to hit. That doesn't make any fucking sense for his Amaterasu to be on a sort of like an exponential ramp like that. Like, no. And like I said, in the anime, it makes it more clear. Itachi isn't aiming with his body. He's turning his head to try to, be more accurate, because your eyes, they jitter around. But when you just move your body, you can be a little more accurate where you're looking, and that seems to be the case with Itachi. But like you said, just people grossly misinterpreting the scene and disregarding context to cherry pick the fucking scans that are put up.
I mean, I think we've gotten the point across. This isn't even really like a fair fight. Itachi kind of just bodies.
Yeah, so if our point and our stance wasn't made clear, Itachi absolutely slaps the shit out of the 5 Kage. Low diff at best. I'm a fucking Itachi tard to death, so I'm going to say like 0 diff.
Yeah, I'm going with no diff.
Yeah, there's genuinely nothing they can do. Itachi is such a proactive fighter. Every fight he's begun, he started with a clone. And the Kage were getting cucked by Madara's clone, so it's like, yeah, you just yoinked Itachi out of his Susanoo, but guess what? That wasn't actually Itachi. We see that with B, Naruto, Kabuto. Everyone he's ever engaged thinks they get the upper hand on Itachi, and it's always a clone. Like,
yeah,
I genuinely just don't see what they could do. Tsunade is limited to close range, which makes her a perfect candidate for a Madarasu Tsukuyomi and the Totsuka Blade. Raikage also limited to close range, and he's not faster than Itachi, and we've established that he can use his Totsuka Blade with just the rib cage, right? And he reacts to Kabuto, who's blitzing Sasuke, right? So A can't outrun Itachi either.
Not at all.
Yeah, Onoki can't dodge a Matarasu. If he starts flying in the air, like, he's gonna get fucking clipped and he's gonna die. Mei, I don't think anybody needs any convincing that Itachi just, backhands her and Chris Browns her out the way.
We probably don't even need, like, justification for Mei. She just loses.
Exactly. And then that really just leaves Gaara, which
Gaara
weaker
sucks.
than...
Literally, MS Sasuke gets, like, an amp, right? Before Gaara was, like, blocking the Madarasu. MS Sasuke gets an amp and he just gets right past Gaara, no problem. So
exactly, and using Suikage's own scaling, he says that Sasori is stronger than Warlord Gaara. So for you to argue that Gaara could do anything against Itachi, you would need to first argue that he would just be going back against what he said previously, and there is no way in hell Sasori is stronger than Itachi. It's just a retarded claim to make.
We won't get into that, but
exactly. Yeah. Itachi 0 diffs the 5 Kage. Even as a group, he, like I said earlier, he's a scarier opponent than Madara, because Madara fucks around. He spends like 2 chapters just fucking with them. Itachi got to the point. He rips Nagato in half, cuts Orochimaru's arm off. Without hesitation. Kabuto, had he wanted to, he could have ended the fight like 2 pages in. So, Itachi's going to get down to business, and the Kage have nothing they can do against any of his arsenal.
Yeah, so Itachi bodies. I mean, that's it, he bodies.
Itachi bodies, but yeah, just Swag Kage's word is not law. This dude, we just debunked the shit out of his video, so like and subscribe to my man 6.